na nagpapahirap sa ating kalagayan at kabuhayan. Sa susunod na oras, sisikapin po namin ipaliwanag ang iba-ibang bahagi ng ating ekonomiya at ang mga mabibigat pang local and international issues na may malaking epekto sa ating buhay at kinabukasan. Ito po ang inyong katipon na si Butch Valdes, kasama po ang ating co-host dito na si Itos Valdes at ang mga katipon po natin sa Save the Nation Movement, Philippine LaRouche Society at ang Partido Politika na Katipunan ng Demokratikong Pilipino. Kami pong lahat dito ay nag-aanyaya sa inyo na makibahagi sa ating talakayan sa pagsusuri ng mga kasalukuyang problema at paghahanap ng kaukulang solusyon. Okay, marami pong nangyayari ngayon dito sa ating paligid, but ito pong
vaccine.
Vaccine.
Meron na daw today.
Sinovac, no? Yung dumating na ba yung Sinovac?
Sabi ng news reports, today and then tomorrow, another, pero hindi Sinovac, another manufacturer. Sabi nila today and tomorrow. So, let's see. I don't know.
Well, whatever it is, alam nyo po, ang aming, ako personally, tsaka din si Itas, hindi masyadong interesado magpabakuna, no? Dahil may siguro, yan ang problema, pag marami tayong masyadong binabasa, no? Marami tayong nalalaman kung ano-anong nangyayari sa labas ng Pilipinas, no? Ang sitwasyon po ng bakuna, although hindi ito yung topic natin ngayon, pero
it's connected
ko na rin, no? Marami pong nagsasabi ng mga dalubhasang eksperto, doktor, at hindi lang isa-isa yan, grupo po dito, ang mga association of medical practitioners from all over the world are not remiss on warning the populations about the side effects that we might encounter.
The sinasabi natin na actual effects.
Actual effects.
And the survey daw na kinonduct nila is that majority, if not 2/3 of the Philippines don't want the vaccine.
That's right.
Diba?
So, paano nga, siyempre, unang-una yung experience natin dyan sa Dengvac siya. No? Napakabigat po niya. That's nakalantad na po dyan ang ating.
Right.
Tapos, eto na naman ang itutulak natin. Gusto pa ng iba mga mandatory. No?
Yep.
Siyempre, ano na yung mga tao. Tapos ang nagtutulak pa niyan, yung mismong may kasalanan doon sa Dengvaxia, si Duque. Na? Any rate, ang kakaiba naman dito, hindi natin nakikita yung pangalan ng Sanofi. Ano? Ang nakikita po natin ang pangalan na itong mga Pfizer, andyan po yung sila, andyan po si Moderna, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, tsaka Sputnik 5.
Pero nandiyan pa rin yung Sanofi, nandiyan
pa rin yung mga Sanofi, pero hindi po natin narinig, hindi natin alam kung papasok din sila ng kanilang mga kanya-kanya. Alam nyo pa kasi do, they don't deal directly government to government. No? May mga negosyanteng nagbabroker dito. Tapos pinaparehistro yung kanilang i-import. No? So may kita nyo na yan. Maraming lagayan dyan kung sino mapapa-approve na makapasok.
Right.
Di ba?
Right.
Marami pong ano yan. Tapos lakaran yan din sa FDA, sa Food and Drugs. No? Lakaran din sa DOH. Lakaran din naman sa IATF yan.
Yes.
Hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na
siguro na walang
corruption dyan. Right. No? The moment you need any kind of approval or anything, sigurado may mga pampadulas yan. Yeah. Di ba? If you're dealing with billions and billions of pesos, no? It's too attractive. The money that can be made is too attractive for people to
say no to.
To say honest, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest.
So, ganyan po yung sitwasyon natin. And then, ngayon, tama ba to? Sinasabi ng mga dalubhasa na hindi. Ito, pinapakita nila kung sino ang mga nagkakaroon ng side effects. Kung ano-anong mga cerebral palsy or kung ano.
Ang dami
all the way up to death.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yung mga iba, after second or patay. No? At the same time, pinipilit nila yung bakuna. At the same time, nakikita natin yung statistika contradicts the need for a bakuna.
Hindi kailangan.
Kasi ang survival rate, kung man meron kang COVID, no, ang survival rate mo dyan is 99%, 98%. Depending po sa edad ninyo. Sa akin po, ang survival rate ko is 95%.
Right.
No?
But on average?
On the average is higher,
across all
98, 99%.
Oh.
So, what's the need for this?
Tsaka yung sinasabi natin, maski na walang korupsyon, maski na walang kagaguhan, hindi pa rin kailangan ng bakuna. Mali pa rin yung tinatawag nilang mandatory vaccination at pinupush.
Dito po tayo pumupunta. Bakit? No? And hindi natin po pwedeng pagkaila o we cannot dismiss the possibility that this is being done on purpose na towards what you call depopulation. Na? Madalas po natin naririnig itong mga yung may-ari ng Moderna, yan si Bill Gates at kung sino-sino man sa kanila yung mga nakaraang taon. Sinasabi nila overpopulated daw ang mundo at kinakailangan gagawa ng paraan marahil sa pamamagitan ng vaccines. Sila na mismo po nagsasabi nito. 2017, 2012, 2009, pinag-uusapan nila po sa konferensya na public. At sinasabi po nila, kinakailangan siguro pag nagkaroon ng vaccines, no, diyan po nila pwedeng gamitin para mabawasan ang populasyon ng mundo. Now, and this is what is really scary.
Mindset.
Ang mindset na ganyan, pagkatapos ngayon, ito nga nangyari. Lumalabas na ngayon sa mga datos na ang pandemic ay isa talagang pandemic. No? At ginawa nila, sinadya nilang i-manufacture to, tapos pinadaan nila sa China.
Kasi parang grabe. Ang dami nang lumalabas na datos and proofs and evidence after the elections, lalo na dun sa US. Ang daming lumalabas na, kala ko ba sinabi niyong ganito yung corona, pero hindi pala. Ba't pa tayo bumili? Ba't pa tayo umutang? Ba't pa tayo nag-lockdown? Kung hindi naman kailangan pala. Okay pala yung hydroxychloroquine na may azithromycin, yung treatment, early treatment, right?
Right.
Okay pala. Ba't hindi binigay? Bakit hinihintay yung bakuna? Tapos tayo, parang yung mundo, yung mismong testing.
The people themselves were the guinea pigs.
Kasi kailangan testing yan over how many years pala yung efficacy, gano'n. Tayo, kasi ni-rush nila para mabenta.
Yung tao naging guinea pigs.
Tayo na. Ang naging mali pala, ibahin natin. Yung second dose, mas maano.
So, ayaw nila nagagamit ka ng gamot.
Right.
Ayaw nilang bigyan ng approval yung hydroxychloroquine at saka yung mga iba-iba pang gamot.
Tapos yung Facebook, binan pa po ang mga nagsasabi na okay yung hydroxychloroquine.
Ngayon, ang sabi ni Fauci, pwede pala. Magagamit pa. Ang sabi ng World Health Organization, pwede pala yun.
Magkamali kami. Pwede pala.
Yan.
Ang hydroxychloroquine po, napakamura. It's a 70-year-old medicine for malaria.
Yeah. But they saw that even the President of the United States was using it.
Tsaka na-promote niya. Tapos binan na yung hydroxychloroquine. So, other things.
Not only that. So, all of those people, all of these months, that people got supposedly sick with COVID
and died.
And possibly died without the advantage of using the medicine.
Right.
Tapos sasabihin nila nung marami nang namatay, pwede pa pala yan.
Namatay na.
Namatay. Yan, itong World Health Organization nagsasabi din. Hindi naman namin sinabi mag-lockdown
No.
Bakit po ganyan? Why is lockdown such a big issue? Kasi po, the economy shut down.
Right.
No? Once you weigh the lockdown, the economy is shut down.
Right.
And what happens? What happens is people starve. No work. No money to get food.
They get sick.
They get sick. They get sick. They starve and they die. No? Ano po yung ratio? Hindi ko po alam. Wala pang scientific. Pero ano po lang yan, haka-haka ko. For every one person who dies with COVID, talagang COVID, there are probably 20 other people that died because of poverty, starvation, no jobs.
No jobs.
And they get sick. And
so wala silang makain.
Walang sa doktor, patay. No? 20-1 po, baka palagay ko, more pa yan. No? Pero maski na conservative ka, 20-1. For example, kung 10,000, yung sabihin mong namatay sa COVID, possibly mga 200,000. 20-1, 200,000 ang namatay because of sickness, no jobs.
Na not related to COVID.
At
or
hindi po natin masisigurado yan. No? Pero alam natin yung mga datos natin, yung mga nakaraan taon, bago dumating ang COVID.
The other thing, after January 20, naglabas yung WHO, sabi nila, yung mga PCR test na yan pala, hindi pala accurate. Pero nabili na natin.
Yung mga swab test, yung pinapasok sa ilong nyo.
Hindi pala accurate. Pero hindi nila sinabi yun the whole time. Diba?
Tsaka they said daw, it will give you 97% false positive.
Just go.
Ano ba yung false positive? Positive ka daw sa COVID, pero 97% mali yun. Tapos ito po yung ginagamit sa atin.
Binili na.
Mag-isip naman po tayo. But,
binili na ng mga gobyerno, mga doktor. Tapos, ni-require nila na mag-PCR test. binenta nila sa mga local governments, and then local governments will now say, kailangan may health certificate, kailangan mag-PCR test, so gagastos ka. Pero yung WHO, nang siya mismo nagsabing ganito, hindi pala accurate. So, ba't pa natin ginagamit? Di ba? Nagutang na tayo, ginamit na natin. Yun na yun. Tapos ngayon, iniiba na nila. Parang, pwede na pala early treatment. Pwede na palang ganito. Bakit? Bakit ngayon lang? And the media is what we call complicit. Kasama po yan sa may sala. Because CNN, all the mainstream media dito, Rappler, ABS-CBN, GMA, TV5, everybody here in the news department, you are complicit. You cannot wash your hands and say, hindi namin alam yan, nililift lang namin yan sa Reuters or ABTV.
That's the pharma companies. They have money.
Right.
They're the ones paying for this advertisements saka media.
Right.
Diba?
So, but media puts out a news story na mali yung hydroxychloroquine. Hindi ginamit sa isang pasyente, namatay yung pasyente. Wala ba silang sala? Wala ba silang responsibility? Hugas kamay na lang?
That's why.
And all of these things are coming out now.
Well, what we're telling you is this is our preference, this is our opinion, this is the way we see it. Of course, kayo po, ang desisyon na sa inyo kung talagang gusto nyo magpapakuna at medyo natatakot kayo dahil hindi natin po pwede alisin yan. Pero number one weapon po nitong whole exercise nito is fear. No? Once you have the population petrified, paralyzed with fear, no? They will do anything you want. No? And you're the government or you're the people that are running the show. No? You can do, basta may ipasok mo sa kanilang psyche na ang pananakot. No?
Yeah, it's and you have to ask the question. Dapat magtanong kayo. Tanong nyo sa mga eksperto, mga dalubhasa, mga taga-gobyerno. Pag nabakuna na ba ako, hindi ko na kailangan mag-mask?
Kailangan pa.
Pag nabakuna ba ako, hindi ko na kailangan ng social distancing?
Kailangan pa.
Pag nabakuna na ba ako, hindi ko na kailangan magpa-testing sa PCR?
Kailangan pa rin.
Ba't pa ako magpapabakuna?
Kasi, baka mahawak mo yung iba.
Daw. Kung lahat tayo nagpapakuna, pwede na ba? Di ba?
Hindi nga sabi nila 70%.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't really
Wala
make
talaga.
sense. Because ito na lang masks tsaka
Facials, Diyos ko.
Why is it that sinasabi nila that ang mortality rate is like that? Ang mortality rate is 2% or less of those that have gotten COVID. Right? Bakit yung mga iba hindi nag-mask, no? Ang kanilang mortality rate, ganyan din.
2% din.
Yung mag-mask ka, ang mortality rate mo, 2% din. Anong difference?
Di pareho lang.
Di buti pang hindi ka na lang nag-mask. Hindi po ba? No? These are the things that the people in IATF will refuse to answer. They don't want to discuss it in this manner. They just want, ito yung policy na ito yung tutulak natin. At
this government.
Ako, ang palagay ko po, ang ating Pangulo ay linoloko ni Duque, ni Sunny Dominguez at mga iba pa sa nasa gobyerno para itulak itong
parang ang lakas ng hatak.
Kasi ang aming pong paningin, if lang yan dalawa lang yan totoo ba o hindi totoo? Yung bakuna, totoo ba o hindi totoo? Pag hindi totoo, ano ang pakay mo? Why are you pushing something that is untrue? Nandyan na yung pera. Nandyan na yung corruption. Pero hindi lang siguro pera. Bakit mo ginagawa ito? Hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas. Sa buong mundo, itinutulak mo itong ganitong linya. Why? No?
Tsaka why? if majority of your people ayaw, ba't mo pinipili?
Ba't mo pipili? Nandun na tayo. No?
Diba?
Pipilitin nila para nga kasi wala din indemnification yung tawag nilang indemnity. Yung pag na side effects ka, hindi mo mahahabol yung pharma.
Pero ang gobyerno habulin mo.
Hindi. Tapos ngayon, ang sabi ng gobyerno, sige, kami na lang magbabayad.
Yes.
Ay, alam naman natin, hindi gagawin ng gobyerno yan,
Right.
di ba?
Right.
Yung lang sa PhilHealth, nakaw sila ng nakaw di ba? Alam na natin yun. Pero yung mga pharma companies, mga dayuhan na magbebenta ng lason sa atin, no? Ayaw tumaya. Ayaw tumaya. So, but why is it that they're pushing something that might be wrong? And this is where we go, Ethos.
Right.
No? There has always been a position for the past how many decades that the world is overpopulated. At madalas namin, minsan pinapakita namin dito nila Ver, di ba Ver? Pinapakita natin dito yung mga katulad ni Bertrand Russell, Prince Philip, at yung kanilang iba pang mga sinasabi na overpopulated, kailangan gagawa tayo ng paraan para malawakan natin hintuin ng population growth rate. Mas maraming mamamatay. Increase the mortality rate.
Right.
How do you increase mortality rate? Starvation. No? How do you increase mortality rate? Sabi ni Bertrand Russell, maybe using pharmaceuticals. Ano ba yung pharmaceuticals? Ito, vaccines, tsaka sakit, di ba po? No? And then, ganyan din sila Bill Gates. Anong sinasabi nila? Vaccines. No? At sabi niya, we can reduce population by about 10 to 15% given the chance to use vaccines. No? Can you imagine, they will say this publicly, yung kanilang arrogance, no? Audacity to say this publicly. Wala silang takot. No? Nasasabihin, itong kinakailangan natin gawin. Tapos sasabihin nila sa mga heads of state, katulad po ng gobyerno natin, pwede nilang sabihin, o sige, pag hindi ka sumunod dito sa mandatory vaccines, o pag hindi ka sumunod dito na papasukan ka ng vaccines, no? Hindi ka makakahingi ng tulong sa USAID, o hindi ka hindi ka makakahiram ng pera sa World Bank o kung saan man.
Correct.
Yun ang gagawin nilang kondisyon. Iipitig ka. No? Tapos ikaw maraming utang, tatakot ka itong mga advisor mo, kumikita sa mga vaccine tsaka sa mga gamot, yan ang isasabi sa'yo. Anong epekto sa populasyon mo? Babagsak ang populasyon mo, hindi mo man alam. Hindi mo mararamdaman dahil kayong mga nakikinig, tayo, no? Karamihan natin, nandito tayo sa level na hindi unang tatamaan ng pagkapatay, no? Yung mauuna, yung mga, siyempre, yung mga may hirap, the so-called useless eaters. Now, how do you tie this up, Pitos, with that historically there has been a depopulation programs, no?
Well, siguro yung mga kaibigan natin who have been watching our show dito sa Ating Katipunan every Sunday since the beginning, no? We've always put out our position that all of these things happening, environmentalism, now with COVID and all, is a attempt to scare the population, to scare countries, and to scare peoples of those countries about overpopulation. So their intention, as in their own words that we've shown, and mamaya konti we will show it again, is to depopulate the world. Kasi sa kanila, and we're not talking, hindi po kami nagkukwento about yung mga ordinaryong tao or ordinaryong teacher lang. So these people are the ones who decide world policy. Ito yung mga pinakamayaman at dalubhasa, kunwari.
Tsaka very influential leaders po ito ng nagsasabi.
Right. So these are the ones who are saying that masyadong marami, kaya may poverty kasi masyadong maraming tao sa mundo. So kailangan maglagay tayo ng mga policies na para pauntiin, whether drastic, sudden, or gradual, yung pababa ng population.
Just add, di ba po yan ang sinasabi nila? Kanya po marami may hirap dahil overpopulated tayo. So, papakonvince nila kayo, oo nga.
Yep.
Alam nyo ba yung mga may hirap nandun, wala din na nila mapakain yung bata, ay yung mga bata, tapos siguro pa rin ang anak nila.
Kaya may health bill.
Kailangan may
reproductive health bill, di ba?
Kaya kailangan pigilin natin yan. Di ba ganyan? Tapos, kayo po, sasabihin nyo, oo nga, kailangan mabawasan. Oo nga, kailangan mabawasan. Hindi nyo po naiisip na imbes na bawasan mo yung populasyon, gumawa ka ng tamang programa ng ekonomiya para maitaas mo ang kakayanan mo magpakain ng tao. Ano po ba ang mas madali? Patayin mo yung tao o gumawa kang paraan para mas marami kang mapapakain? Di ba po? You have to think along those lines because you will see that these people, and he mentioned environmentalists. Hindi po lahat, pero marami po dyan. At meron mga depopulationists, meron pong mga ibang katulad ngayon, katulad nitong mga hindi po nag-iiba ang kanilang ideolohiya. Pati na rin yung mga komunista. Na, alam niyo po, ang daming komunista, environmentalist din.
Marami.
Because they are anti-development.
Yes.
Anti-development means anti-people.
Anti-capitalism, kunwari.
Anti-development, ang ibig po sabihin, huwag ka mag-develop dahil huwag ka magtayo ng mga factories. Pag hindi ka nagtayo ng factories, hindi mo mabigyan ng trabaho yung populasyon mo. Kung wala silang trabaho, ano pong mangyayari sa kanila? Gugutumin, magkakasakit at mamamatay. Kanya po yung anti-development, unlike the environmentalists and the communists, are one and the same ideology. They are anti-population.
Liberal capitalists.
They want populations to die, and so that they bring down the world population. Why do they want to bring down population? Kasi po ang tingin nila, mali ito lang ang mundo, hindi mo pwedeng punuin ng tao kasi yung tao kakainin yung
limited resources
at kulang hindi po totoo yun kasi ang tao may kakayanan gumawa ng mas malaking pagkain using science and technology,
using his own
his own creativity,
his creative power.
Dati po nakikita natin ng isang pitak na palayan, pag magsabog ka lang ng palay dyan, meron nga tutubo. Tapos nakita po natin, ilan ang napapakain mo, yung isang pamilya. Tapos nakita natin, kailangan pala lagyan ng abono. So kukuha ka ng abono, lalagay mo doon sa palayan mo. O mas marami kang inaani. So mas marami ka din mapapakain. Tapos sabi nila, hindi kaya yung ihintay ka lang ng ulan. Kailangan gagawa ka ng irrigation. So kukunin mo yung tubo lagay mo sa ilog, tapos makapadala ka ng tubig dito sa palayan mo. So may palayan ka, may abono ka, at meron ka rin. So mas marami ka na naman mapapakain dahil dumadami. Isang pitak lang yon. Ganyan din po ang mundo. Isang pitak lang yan. But you use your science and your creativity to increase your productivity. and that is limitless. It is unlimited because science keeps on improving. As you inject science into this, you from the same planet, from the same Earth, we increase our productivity. Ganyan po yung tunay na economics. Yung pong tinuturo ng mga environmentalists na sobra mga tao. Hindi totoo yun. Anyway, ganyan po itong pinanggagalingan ng ating diskusyon ngayon.
Yeah. So, going off from that nga, may mga tao nga, these elites. Maalala po natin, we put out yung si Henry Kissinger was a national security advisor of I think it was Carter.
No.
Or Ford.
Hindi, Nixon.
Nixon, 1973 po, na in his National Security Studies Memorandum
200.
in 200 na pinalabas niya, sabi niya, certain countries daw masyado nang nagde-develop, marami ng masyadong tao. And if they have too much people, they will need their own resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they start utilizing their own resources kasi kinakailangan ng mga government nila to feed their own people, mawawalan tayo.
Basahin mo nga yan.
So, this is part of it. Ito yung 1974. You can look this up online. This is already declassified. This is Henry Kissinger po. Quote, "Depopulation should be the highest priority of foreign policy towards the third world, because the U.S. economy will require large and increasing amounts of minerals from abroad, especially from less developed countries." Unquote. So that's the policy po na pinapalabas ni
To depopulate.
nagiging foreign policy po yan since 1974. So alala po natin yung POPCOM natin, Population Committee na itinayo during Marcos time, has something to do with this. Tapos ito yung sinasabi ng Kissinger kasi nililink niya yung paghiram ng pera sa depopulation. Kumbaga, kung hindi kayo nagpa-iral ng depopulation program, hindi ka namin papairamin ng pera. So, give me that quote again, guys, so we can read it. Quote, "There is also some established precedent for taking account of family planning performance in appraisal of assistance requirements by AID, USAID, and consultative groups. Since population growth is a major determinant of increases in food demand, allocation of scarce resources should take account of what steps a country is taking in these sensitive relations, in population control as well as food production. In these sensitive relations, however, it is important in style as well as substance to avoid the appearance of coercion."
Nakikita niyo po ang kabastusan nitong mga taong to.
So to interpret in layman's terms, ano yung
Ang sabi nila,
sige.
wag po, kinakailangan ipakita nila sa atin na kaya nilang magbabawas ng populasyon nila. At pag hindi mo binawasan ng populasyon nila, pag hindi nila binawasan ng populasyon nila, hindi sila mabibigyan ng USAID o anuman tulong na manggagaling sa Amerika. At ang sinasabi, kung paano natin gagawin, bahala na ang kanilang mga sistema kung paano nilang gagawin na bawasan ng populasyon. Pero ang napaka-importante, wag daw lalabas, no, na mukhang pinipilit. No?
Grabe, no?
It should avoid the appearance of coercion.
So kailangan pagandahin
yung
market mo.
Yung subtle sa kampanya, para hindi nila nararamdaman na pinipilit sila dito sa population control.
Right. So,
yeah. Kaya sinasabi ko, bastos yung mga Amerika. Yan, si Kissinger, ganyan din.
Yeah. So, he was the National Security Advisor of the time, during that time. And ito yung policy po nila, foreign policy, na kailangan sasabihin lang sa mga bansang to, nakasama po tayo, Philippines, among 13 other countries, na target. Kailangan mag-implement kayo ng family planning. Kailangan bawasan ang population nyo. Dahil sa minerals na kinakailangan namin. So this was the kind of thinking. Now, in many ways, sumusunod lang siya sa kanyang predecessor na sinasabi natin na what LaRouche termed as the most evil man of the 20th century, Bertrand Russell. So Bertrand Russell had a similar quote. Medyo iba lang yung English, pero the intention is the same.
Bertrand Russell.
Sige. So in Bertrand Russell was a philosopher.
Bertrand Russell.
Yeah, they're finding. So Bertrand Russell was a philosopher, parang influencer, academician, kunyari gusto niya ng peace. Pero ang number one na gusto niya sa mundo, yung kanyang number one philosophy is that there are too many people in the world. So how do we solve the world's problems are caused by overpopulation? Yun lang to. Itong taong to, yan, 1872 to 1970. So he was the most popular before the war, 1930s, late 20s to 1930s, and then after to about 1960. So marami po siyang nasulat. You can look it up in the internet. Pero basahin niyo po yung original works. Huwag niyong basahin yung interpretation ng works niya. So one of his quotes regarding how to depopulate the world is like this. So ito quote ko. He wrote this in 1953 in a paper called "The Impact of Science on Society." So ibabasa po natin, then we will discuss it. Quote, "But bad times, you say, are exceptional and can be dealt with by exceptional methods. This has been more or less true during the honeymoon period of industrialism, but it will not remain true unless the increase of population can be enormously diminished. At present, the population of the world is increasing at about 58,000 per diem. Per day, siguro. War, so far, has had no very great effect on this increase, which continued through each of the world wars. War has hitherto been disappointing in this respect. But perhaps bacteriological war may prove more effective.
Yung COVID po tandaan nyo.
If a Black Death po, could spread throughout the world once in every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world too full. The state of affairs might be somewhat unpleasant, but what of it? Really, the high-minded people are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's." So you want to...
Well, ito po yung si Bertrand Russell kasi ang tawag sa kanya ni LaRouche is one of the most evil men that ever lived. No? He was writing about overpopulation in 1953. No?
Yeah, in that science, in that paper.
In that paper. At sinasabi niya yon na 2 world war ang dumaan. At ilan ang mga namatay diyan. Pero sabi niya, kulang pa ang namatay diyan. Dahil nag-i-increase pa rin ang ating populasyon.
Right.
Sabi niya. Dapat, sabi niya, but perhaps bacteriological war may prove more effective. Yung pong germ warfare, magsabog ka ng disease, magsabog ka ng pandemya, pampatay sa kalaban mo. Sabi niya, mas epektibo yan. Tapos sinabi niya, if a Black Death could spread throughout the world once in every generation. Alam niyo po ba yung Black Death? Yung Black Death po happened in the Dark Ages. No? Ito po yung parang bubonic plague. No? That more than 30-40% of Europe's population, almost half of Europe's population was killed, died because of this bubonic plague. No? At yun po yung tinatawag nilang Black Death.
Kasi kalahati naubos.
Halos maubos ang populasyon ng Europe. Kalahati ng populasyon ng Europe patay. No? Okay, sabi niya, etong si Russell, sana magkakaroon tayo ng ganyang klaseng epidemya. No? At ganyang klaseng sakit once in every generation. One generation is 20 to 25 years.
Right.
Sabi niya, once in every generation, dapat meron tayong ganyang klaseng epidemic o pandemya, no? Para mabawasan ng malaki ang populasyon. Biro mo ngayon sa Europe, kalahati ng populasyon ng Europe na ubos diyan sa Black Death. Sabi niya, para ang mga survivors could procreate freely. Mas ano daw yung kanilang procreate, paggagawa ng mga bata without making the world too full. Parang the state of affairs might be somewhat unpleasant. Baka, sabi niya, baka hindi popular ito, no? Pero parang nakaka-ano ng pag-iisip. But sabi niya, so what?
Ano ngayon?
The high-minded people, yung mga matatalino, are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's. Wala silang pakialam kung yung mga ibang ang madla, masaya o hindi. No? Kasi sila yung mga nag-iisip at sila yung matatalino, elitista. Ganyan po mag-isip yung Bertrand Russell. Yung Bertrand Russell na yan, philosopher yan, kilala yan dito sa Pilipinas. Meron pa nga siyang Bertrand Russell Foundation dito sa Pilipinas.
Sa UP.
Sa UP, pinamumunuan ng dating presidente ng UP. Alam niyo po yung Bertrand Russell Foundation, pumipili po yan ng mga, siguro mga
tatalinong estudyante.
Mga 4 o 5 estudyante. Kuminsan, maski na professor na pipiliin nila yan, bibigyan nila ng biyahe ng 6 na buwan to 1 year sa London para tuturuan nila tungkol kay Bertrand Russell. No? Tapos ito naman Pilipino, sayang-saya siya na makakapunta siya sa England under the auspices of the Bertrand Russell Foundation.
Siyempre.
Pagbalik nila dito, andun, dala na nila yung lason nitong si Bertrand Russell. Kanya hanggang ngayon, yung mga lason na yan, no, na pag-iisip, ay umiiral dito sa Pilipinas.
Yep. Now, ang sinasabi kasi ni LaRouche, itong pinaka-evil na tao, parang ang harap niya sa mga tao, pilosopo lang ako, nag-iisip lang ako anong pwede. Pero kunyari, ano yung pwedeng gawin? Kasi yung problema talaga natin, yung Industrial Revolution which occurred right after the Renaissance, 16th, 17th century, na yung tao, humanity, was able to discover science and build machines and build and discover certain principles sa universe. Tapos dumadami yung tao sa mundo. So sabi niya, yung Industrial Revolution, okay. Yung mga nadidiscover natin, mga machine, mga engine, mga communications, and advances in science and technology, okay yan. Problema, pag dumami masyado yung tao. So paano natin gagawin yan? So sabi niya, yung gera, mahirap, magastos. Tsaka hindi parang nasosolve yung overpopulation kasi dumadami pa rin yung tao kahit sinadalawa na yung gera natin, World War I and II, na napakaraming namatay. So ano yung mas epektibo? Tinatawag niya bacteriological warfare. In other words, biological warfare. Biological and chemical warfare. So sabi niya, bigyan mo ng disease yung mga tao.
Tingnan nyo po, bigyan nyo yung disease ng mga tao. Sinasabi nitong si Bertrand Russell, 1953, 2020. Ito na yung disease. Palagay nyo ba itong mga sila Bill Gates, tsaka itong mga ibang kakilala nila si Bertrand Russell? Of course!
Yan parang mentor nila.
Diyan ang gagaling yung ganyang klaseng pag-iisip.
Siyempre, itong si Bertrand Russell is not alone, no? Marami pong ganyan. Tapos yung mga, pero paborito po siya ng mga elite na yung tinatawag na natin ngayon, na nakikita natin as New World Order, or yung One World Government ng mga tao. Yung pinakita natin sa inyo na World Economic Forum, yung Great Reset, yun ang mga parang anak ni Bertrand Russell. Yan yung mga sumusunod na ganyan ng filosofiya. Sabi nila, masyado maraming tao, kaya nagdi-disease, kaya naggaganyan. Mag-reset tayo, palitan natin yung system ng government. Pero Bertrand Russell, again, is not alone in that aspect. Naging popular lang siya kasi, kunyari, scientifico siya. Actually, yung mga iba nga sinasabi, man of peace si Bertrand Russell kasi ayaw niya na ng gera. Pero ang gusto niya, one world government para wala ng gera. Yan ang solusyon niya. And in his other writings about mankind, makikita po niya, mga 1920s yan. Tsaka, his personal life, loko-loko po yan. Pag nabasa niyo, napasukan niyo yung ipa-research niyo, loko-loko po yung taong yan. Tsaka marami siyang kakampi all around the world. Na-impluensya na nga dito after World War II, pumunta siya dito. Pinasukan ng academics natin, especially dyan sa UP, yung kanyang mga filosofiya. Tapos hindi mo malalaman po na ganun ka sama itong taong to. Kasi para siyang mga, nag-iisip lang tayo ng ganito, ano yung mas bagay dito, ano yung mas bagay. Pero yun ang basehan.
Alam mo yan sinasabi ng academic freedom. Kailangan pag-aralan mo lahat. No? Pati basura, papag-aralan mo. At dahil binigyan ka ng pera, binigyan ka ng biyahe papunta sa London, yung basura nun, dadalhin mo dito. At yun ang itutulak mo dahil ano ka na, apektado ka na sa kanilang binibigyan pabor sa'yo. Ganyan po yung maraming scholarships na pinamimigay ng iba-ibang foundation.
Right. So, I wanted to go. So, go back pa. Before Bertrand Russell. Or during, pero before that pa, during the war po, alala niyo po si Bertrand Russell is British philosopher, and he was very influential as a Truman. Pagpasok after Franklin Roosevelt po, namatayin si Franklin Roosevelt, pumasok si Harry Truman during the war, the ending of the war. Very influential po si Bertrand Russell sa pagkakumbinse kay Harry Truman na bombahin yung Japan. Ang iniisip ni Bertrand Russell kasi, and you see this in many of his writings.
His writings, Civilization and the Bomb.
Yes. Sabi niya, pakita natin sa mundo na napaka-terrible na pwedeng mangyari ng isang bomba, isang atomic bomb at the time. At hindi na tayo i-challenge ng ibang mga nation.
Right.
Forever. So parang lesson yan. Ito yung pinaka-grabing bomba sa buong history ng man.
Pakitaan
natin
that you have a weapon so devastating.
Yes.
And you will show it. No? You have the weapon so devastating so that this time no other country will dare challenge you.
Yes.
And this is the way to achieve world peace.
Yes. One world government, kasi kayo lang namumuno, wala kasing ibang nation. So lahat ng policy nyo, magagawa nyo after the war. Kasi po, by that time po, tapos na po yung gera. patapos na, hindi po kailangan bombahin ng Japan. Kasi meron na silang ginagawang, surrender na kami. Surrounded na po yung Japan ng US forces. Wala na silang maibubuga pa. Pero binomba pa nila 2 beses.
This is documented, by the way.
Yes, hindi kami nag-invento dito.
There were communications from Japan prior to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Official communications asking the Vatican to mediate a peace surrender agreement with the US. At they were sending messages to the Vatican. And the one working at the Vatican Secretariat at that time was a bishop named Bishop Montini. And Bishop Montini would relay this to the US government, telling them that Japan is willing to surrender, and is looking for a way how to go about it.
Right.
And they are requesting the Vatican to mediate the surrender agreement. This was totally ignored. And talagang inignore ng Amerika ni Harry Truman. Bakit? Kasi ayaw niyang pabayan mag-surrender. Gusto niya bobombahin niya muna para mapakita niya sa mundo.
Yeah.
Yun.
Yeah.
Now, this Bishop Montini eventually became Pope Paul VI. No? And it was in his accounts, no? And that this was the communication being made through him. No?
This happened, nakita na natin long after. Pero again, ito si Harry Truman kasi sinasabi sa mga historical references and our discussions with certain people that he was not of the same mindset as Franklin Roosevelt. He was opposite. And so he listened more to tinatawag natin the British and the oligarchy ng Britain. And one of the most influential on him was Bertrand Russell. So yun ang mindset niya. So inisip nila, kailangan tayo mag-establish ng control. Wala na pong strategic value ang pagbobomba sa Hiroshima at Nagasaki. Wala po. Panalo na po. Tapos na po. Wala na si Hitler, tapos wala na po. So, but let us go back into the 1930s. In the 1930s, there was a conference, a population conference in Berlin. So if we can bring up one of my slides. Before that po kasi, meron silang tinatawag na, during that time, sabi kasi nila, problema na po yung overpopulation. At ang gusto natin gumawa ng mga tao o mag-create or breed, di ba? Procreate ng mga tao na mas maganda po yung genetic.
Para pong naghanap ka ng magkabayo, no? Ang gagawin mo yung champion, no? Ipapamate mo dito sa iba, tapos para maging champion din yung anak, no? Para ganyan. Yun ang parang geneticists, okay?
Right.
Kaya ang ginagawa nila yan, gusto nilang gawin yan sa tao.
Yes. So sabi nila, pwede natin, they're fine here. Sabi nila, just to preface it, yung pag-iisip during the 1920s po, sa all over the world po hindi lang sa certain countries, wala pa po yung Nazi Party 1920s. Is that the one? No.
1936.
That's different. That's sige. So, yan. Pero mamaya, yan yung poster, lalabas natin. So in 1920s po, malaki po yung move kasi yung mga science na discover nila, pwede palang itong asong to, pag maganda yung breed, lahi, i-mate natin dito, ipagsama natin dito sa isang aso na magandang lahi. Maganda yung kinalabasan. Di ba? Maganda yung forma, malakas, di ba? Ang ganda ng tayo. So sabi nila, ba't hindi pwede sa tao? So na lumabas yung study po ng engineering, social engineering po ng isang tao. Tinawag nila eugenics.
Sinong gumawa na?
Okay. So there are different authors of the science of eugenics. Chemical po kasi alala po natin sa high school yung mga plants. Nilalagay natin, ginagraph natin yung mga X and Y chromosomes, yung mga plant na gano'n. Sabi nila sa hayop. So bagong field ng study yan of human biology. Ngayon, kinuha ng mga to, one of them was, yes, that guy, sige. Itong si Galton, who is considered he's also British. Okay. He believed that man's function in the universe is like dogs. It's like animals. So walang pag-iisip, walang creative reason, walang pag-iisip, walang God, in other words. So I'm just going to quote from, this is an old
parang si Darwin.
Yes. So he lived itong na 1822 to 1911. Nag-uumpisa siya ng pagka-science kasi wala pong talagang equipment at that time. So nag-experiment sila, nakikita lang nila. So sabi niya, he wanted man and humanity to be treated, science daw is numbers lang. Walang morals, walang ethics, it's just numbers, parang animals and plants,
Statistics.
So, and he was fully convinced, sabi niya, of the survival of the fittest principle applied to man. So in other words, yung mga pinakamatangkad, pinakamalakas, pinakamatalino, dahil po yan sa survival of the fittest. Siya yung natirang matibay. Siya yung breed naman. At yung iba, hindi na yung parang hindi siya yung same level. Yan ang sinatawag nila father eugenics. So, pero sabi niya, pwede mong i-engineer po yun. Pwede mong gawin, pwede mong by accident. Pwede yun na natin. So yun ang born of science of, and this was very popular during the turn of the century and even in the pag naka-research po tayo, I think meron akong in the United States, in mga farms in the United States, meron po silang, alam po natin siguro, ngayon wala na, pero sa US, sa mga ibang countries that are agriculture, meron silang tinatawag na fairs, parang country fairs. Parang pupunta lahat ng farmers doon, tapos ang papasikat sila, yun, fittest fairs. Ang papasikat sila ng this was in the 1920s.
Amerika po to.
Yeah, this is a Kansas State Fair in 1920. Okay. Meron silang, pag nagdadala ka ng, kunyari, paborito mong baboy. Diba? Tapos, lahat ng ibang mga farmer or nagpapadala din. Tapos may judge, yung pinaka-okay. Tapos meron silang ibigay na blue ribbon. Diba? Yun. Pero because nga lumalaganap or naging popular, sabi,
it is deleted. Yan pong mga nasa, hanggang dito meron po tayong ganyan, di ba? Yung agri-fair, no? Tapos, dadating yung mga iba may nakamagandang pakwan. Pakwan, no? Pinakamalaki, pinakamalaking basa, pinakamasarap at malaking mais. Tapos, pumupunta po tayo sa hayop, no? Pinakamagandang manok, pinakamalakas ang pinakamalaking itlog, no? At ganyan na rin sa baboy, sa kambing, at sa baka, yung pinakamaganda. Puro pinakamaganda. Yun ang binibigyan ng award.
Tapos yung farm nyo, kung saan yung magiging popular. Kasi ang ganda ng bunga eh. Ang ganda ng bunga ng prutas mo. So, contest yan. So, nagpapasikat sila. Ngayon, dahil lumalagaan na rin ang science of eugenics, meron silang ano, pasok doon, parang kampanya nila promoted it. Itong mga dalubhasang experts in academic, sabi na gawin na natin pero sa tao. Magpadala kayo. Yan, pakita niyo yung Fittest Fairs, yun yung 1920. Yan. Yeah. It's called the Fittest Fairs. This is a eugenic and health exhibit, Fittest Families Exhibit and Examination Building, Kansas State Free Fair. So, pati yung mga tao ngayon, ini-examine nila. Tapos, binibigyan ng health certificate. Okay ka. Ang ganda ng mata mo. Wala kang sakit.
Ito yung pinakamagandang pamilya.
Yes.
Pinakamagandang anak.
Yes.
Ito yung dilaw ang buhok, puti. Normally yan, pag maitim ka, wala ka na dyan. Talo ka na. Kaya naghanap siya. Nasa fair po yan. Nandiyan po sa mga agricultural fairs. Kasama ng mga mahayop na naghahanap ng
So that was happening in the 1920s
in the United States.
In the United States po. Okay? So this was put out. Ito yung pinaka-popular by the biggest universities, Johns Hopkins University, Stanford Clinic, all of these universities na dudubhasan, very popular. They were the ones pushing this.
Then dagdagan natin ito para hindi mawala yung aking nakikinig. Pag ngayon, pero nasa iyo na yung pinakamaganda, no? Na pinakamagandang baka, no? Sabi nito, you become popular. So all of the farmers with cows, no, want your bull to mate para magkakaroon din silang magandang baka. No? Ngayon, dito naman sa tao, paano mong gagawin yan?
Right. So you have to, sabi nila, so since meron tayong alam na tinatawag natin perfect physical specimen ng tao, perfect family, perfect ano ngayon ng hindi perfect? Diba? Yan yung pinaka-ideal.
Ito yung high standard mo.
Ito yung high standard. So, dapat yan ang i-achieve natin. So, yung mga high standard na lalaki, kailangan doon din sa high standard na babae. Doon sila magsasama.
Yun ang ima-match mo.
Oo. Pero yung hindi pwede, yung high standard na lalaki at sinasabi nilang hindi high standard. Ang lalabas na anak, bababa yung kalidad.
Quality.
Diba? Yan po, hindi po kami nag-aano. Yan ang promotion nila ng mga health department po nila at yun na
they were trying to improve the human race or the American.
That's their
Diyan po nang galing yung ideya nila Hitler gumawa ng super race.
Yes. So this was happening in America's 1920s, 1930s. At sinasabi ito elitista, ito yung mga okay na pamilya. Huwag kayong makihalubilo sa hindi okay. Huwag kayong makihalubilo sa iba. Dapat kayo lang. Kasi dapat may-maintain yung quality daw. Ito po, pinapailan nila. Wala silang pakialam sa matalino ka kasi ganito kang hard worker, wala sila. Yung physical lang. Ngayon, ang sinasabi ngayon nila, they have to have by the 1930s, lumalabas na po si Hitler. Lumalabas na yung Nazi Party. Di pa po nagkagera. They organize what they call a population commission. So I think you had a poster kanina, We Are Not Alone, pinalabas from the population. So may poster po sila na sinasiyan niya. Pakita natin. Yan, eugenics poster 1936. What that means, we do not stand alone. Kita mo lahat ng flags na sumusuporta sa eugenics program nila.
1936 po to, bago po pumutok yung gera.
Yes. So sabi nila, ang gusto kasi nila mangyari sa Germany, tanggalin yung mga hindi perpektong tao sa kanilang mata. Tanggalin nila yung hindi high quality. Kasi yung Science of Eugenics nagsabi, ito, napaka high quality. So tanggalin natin. So we will now implement a sterilization program.
And in the idea of Hitler, the lower quality of people is the Jews.
Yes.
Na,
among other races.
Among other races, yan. Pero tingnan nyo po itong poster na ito. It was a Nazi eugenics poster in 1936. It was right before the war. And it says, we do not stand alone. Tignan nyo po yung mga bandera ng iba-ibang bansa na mayroong ganyang klaseng pag-iisip. Unang-una po yung bansang Amerika.
Yes.
Kita nyo po. Andyan din po yung Japan, andyan din po yung British.
Yes, and all of these, in Switzerland, I think the Red Cross there. So we have that. I think we have another poster also that we can show you about yung mga tinatawag nilang useless eaters tsaka yung feeble-minded. So it's in the PowerPoint. But as part of their campaign, gusto nila daw i-cleanse yung Germany ng mga hindi high quality na tao. Because yung science po ng eugenics, at the time, sinasabi ganyan. Dapat yung ideal ng lahat ng bansa, dapat yung pinaka-highest quality na tao. Huwag yung mga medyo hindi matalino, medyo matanda na, medyo hindi maka pag-aral, or yan ang the concept na Nazi Germany came up with called useless eaters. Sabi nila, yung mga walang benepisyo sa society. And part of their posters and campaign is this, something like this. So it blew up. Can you make that bigger? Hindi. So hindi kaya. So this is part of the campaign. Ito yung mga drawing ng mga Nazis. Pinapagkalat yan as leaflets. On the left side, yung mga kriminal. Yung mga kriminal, pag nagkaanak, may lahing kriminal. So masama yun. Yung mga hindi may sakit parate, yung may kapansanan or may yung handicap, di ba?
Handicap.
Pag nagkaanak, malamang magkaka-handicap rin. Yung mga iba, yung mga hindi ganun katalino o yung pulubi, poor, di pwede. Kasi, so ito yung kampanya nila, pinapakalat nila sa buong nation ng Germany.
Tapos yung sa baba, pwede na.
Yung sa baba, yung champion. Dapat yung lalaki, ganyan yung itsura niya. So ito yung perfect na family, ito yung ideal. Now, if you go back, sige, pwede na. So if you go back po sa 1970s, dito sa Pilipinas, nung tinayo yung Population Commission. Naalala nyo po, may leaflet rin tayo na pinakalat ng gobyerno. Na ideal family. One father, one mother, one boy, one girl na.
2 children.
Yun lang po. Campaign din. So parang ganun ang ginawa sa Nazi Germany. Ngayon, ano po ang ginawa nila? So sabi ng gobyerno, yung mga hindi dapat magkaanak, dapat hindi magkaanak. So, anong gagawin natin? We will sterilize them. Sterilize po, ibigyan sila ng injection na para hindi na magkaanak.
Mabuntis.
Now, sa States, sa US po, may maraming kaso na tinatawag na forced sterilization. Na pag medyo may kapansanan ka, kailangan pumunta ka sa health center at hindi naman bakuna, but ituturo ka. In other words, para hindi ka na magkaanak, hindi mo na, how do you say, your genes.
Hindi mo na ikakalat ang lahi mo.
Ang lahi mo.
Kasi defective yung lahi mo.
Defective. Imagine, ganun sila mag-isip. 1920s pa yan. Sabi nila, itong mga taong to, ayaw magpa-sterilization. Pilitin natin. Right. May mga kaso po in the 1920s. Basahin nyo po, i-research nyo lang. Forced sterilization.
Kung minsan naman, ang gagawin nila, lolokohin nila yung tao. Kunwari, bakuna ng polio.
Right.
No? Pero isasama nila doon sa bakuna ng polio yung isa pang lason, no? Na ang gagawin nun, magiging baog na yung bata.
Yes.
At wala na siyang kakayanan magkaanak. Hindi po mahalata ng bata yan o magulang dahil pumunta sila doon para mag-injection sa polio. Ginagawa po nila to sadya. May mga gobyerno pong gumagawa niyan.
Talaga? Sa Pilipinas ba nagawa nila?
Palagay ko nagawa nila yon,
di ba?
Palagay ko nung panahon ni Ramos ginawa nila yan.
Right. So we're just saying this is napaka-familiar po yung kanilang kampanya. Same. So ginawa nila forced sterilization. In other words, wala kang choice. Kung wala kang masyadong alam, kung mangmangka, ikaw ng pag-aaral dahil sa kulubi ka o nasa takang pera, hindi mo na ikakalat yung lahi mo. Wala na. Tapos na. Pag namatay ka, tapos na. Kasi di ka dekalidad. Ganon sila mag-ano. So, going to the Nazis, tinatawag na useless eaters, walang benefit sa society. Ito gagawin natin. So, kailangan i-engineer natin yung society. Tanggalin natin yung mga tinatawag nilang marurumi. Kahit
sandali lang, bakit, again, klaruin natin, bakit ang tawag nila useless eaters? Useless eaters. Kasi po, ang isang pamahalaan may responsibilidad sa kanyang mga mamamayan, hindi po ba? Ngayon, ang sinasabi nitong mga masasamang isip, ang useful citizens, yung mga nakakapagtrabaho, kaya nilang magtrabaho, kaya nilang mag productive para sa
nagko-contribute sa economy,
sa lipunan, sa ekonomiya. Ang iba naman, sinusuportahan ng gobyerno, pero hindi sila nagko-contribute sa ekonomiya. Kanya ang tawag sa kanila, useless eaters. Dalawa pong level, yung useless eaters na yan. As in a general sense, yung pong mga retired, yung mga matatanda, wala na silang serbisyo sa production, useless eater yan.
Hindi na sila makagalaw.
Okay. Ngayon, anong ibig sabihin ng useless eater? Ang sinasabi na sa gobyerno, kanya, wag na natin suportahan kasi useless eater yan. Wag ka na magbigay ng tulong dyan sa mga matatandang yan. Wala nang pakinabang ang bansa natin yan. Ito naman mga bata. Mga bata pa no? Wag ka na rin maglagay ng tulong dyan. Masyado dahil hindi pa naman sila productive. Kanya ang gawin mo, pigilin mo yung pagbubuntis para ang bata hindi masyadong marami. No? Kailangan mo pa rin ng bata kasi kailangan mo ng workers, di ba? Pero, yung mga iba, tanggalin mo. Kanya anong mangyari? Yung mga iba dyan, tawag nila dyan, useless eaters. No? Kanya, sabihin natin, gusto lang natin ganito mga batang mabubuhay, yung ibigay na tulong sa kanila ay ganyan din kakonti. Yung pangatlong useless eaters, ay yung mga may kapansanan.
Yeah.
Yung mga handicap, may sakit, naka-wheelchair, di na nagtatrabaho. Pero sinusustentuhan pa rin ng gobyerno. No? Ang sabi nila, useless eater yan. Huwag na natin tulungan at pabayan mo na silang magsarili, kahanap sila kung saan sila uutang para mabuhay sila o yung kanilang pamilya. Pero ang gobyerno hindi na dapat tumulong. Kaya yung idea yung useless eaters, nag-umpisa yan dito sa panahon ng mga Nazis, mga kila Hitler. Sila ang nag-identify nitong mga grupong to na useless eaters. Yun ang ano.
Yeah, so yan yung ano nila, kampanya nila. Pero the principle is the same as the thinking of the royal family of England, yung mga royal families ng Europe, yung US, yung mga ganun. Ang sinasabi nila, dapat, ang bintang kasi nila sa mga to, ay siya ang dahilan kung bakit naghihirap ang economy na. Masyadong maraming pinapakain ang gobyerno. So mamili na lang tayo kung sinong papakainin natin. At yung iba, pwede nang mamatay o umalis.
Kaya since hindi sila kusang namamatay, hanap ka ng paraan para mas mabilis mamatay.
Right. So, what the Nazis did is obvious, di ba? Pinatay nila lahat. Ang ginawa nila during the war, gumawa silang concentration camps. Bakit pinabuhay pa nila yung mga prisoners of war? Kasi kailangan ng slave labor para gumawa ng armas para sa kanila. So hanggang mamatay sila, katrabaho sila. Tapos, kung hindi na nila, nakita na nila na medyo natalo na sila. Okay. Doon nag-implement na tinatawag na final solution. Final solution ay pinapasok nila lahat ng prisoner nila sa concentration camp at ginas nila. Pinatay nila sa pamamagitan ng poison gas. So, ang daming namatay. Okay. After the war, during the Nuremberg trials, kasi hinuli lahat ng Nazi, si Hitler daw, nagpakamatay. Pero lahat, si Göring, all of the top Nazis na nahuli, may trial po yan sa Nuremberg, Germany. Public po yung trial na yan. At isa sa mga arkitekto ng useless eater policy economic, I forget his name right now, is, what he said was, we were just copying what the US was trying to do with forced sterilization. We just took it another step further.
Pero pareho din ang prinsipyo.
So parang sumusunod lang kami sa inyo. Ginawa namin yung hindi nyo kayang gawin. Ba't galit kayo sa amin? Ganun rin ang filosofiya ninyo, di ba? Bago yung gera, sinusuportan nyo kami. Ganun rin ang pag-iisip nyo na overpopulation ang problema ng mundo. Ganun rin ang pag-iisip nyo na dapat natin yung tao na maging perfecto. Pero yung mga hindi perfecto, huwag na natin pakain. Pag ganun rin kayo. Yan ang rationale ng isang Nazi officer during the trial. Sabi niya, sumusunod lang kami sa inyo. Policy niyo rin naman yan eh. Bakit kami yung dahil we took it to the point na ayaw nyo? Di maganda. Alala niyo po, itong si Bertrand Russell fought against Nazi Germany, pero yung filosofiya niya pareho.
British yan, ha?
Right?
So, you remind them the last sentence of Bertrand Russell there. Sabi niya, it might look unpleasant. No? Pero so what of it? Sabi niya.
Diba?
The elite people do not really care about the happiness of others, but they are the thinkers and they have ascendancy over these other people.
So all of this nakikita po natin in many different forms in our economic policy here in the Philippines. Nakikita natin sa everybody that talks about economic policy always says overpopulation is the root of the problem. lahat ng health, we passed the reproductive health bill kasi sobrang daming nanganganak, di naman nila mapakain.
Yung mga ekonomista natin, sila Benjokno, yung mga yan, tingnan niyo po yung kanilang economic program buhat, no?
Yeah.
Isa sa mga mabibigat nilang pinipilit, population control. As early as 1920s, population control na. It's a mindset.
Yes.
It's a same philosophy that says human beings are nothing.
Yes.
No? So let us not think of how to grow the economy. Let us just think as how to distribute this to lesser number of people. No? Ganyan sila. And they call themselves economists.
Yes. And there is before po, kasi tagal na namin lumalaban sa mga ganito, we had even some of the LaRouche colleagues here before. And we set up a forum dyan sa UP School of Economics. Pumayag naman sila. Now, we set up sponsored by UP Economic Society. Wala pong nag-attend na ni isa na professor ng UP School of Economics kahit imbitado po sila. Okay? Kasi alam nila na mabubuking sila. Sa ibang mga occasion na nakadebate po natin, ang sinasabi ng isang Vatican na economista, I forget his name, he said, economics is an immoral science. Walang moral dyan, numero lang. Huwag kayo mag-inject ng mga kung ano yung tama o mali. Economics, like other sciences, I guess, na sinasabi niya, na tinuturo is amoral, sorry. It's not good or bad. It doesn't look at ano yung
statistical lang.
Wala sa masaya ba yung tao o hindi, nabubuhay ba siya o hindi. Statistical lang. Yan po ang lahat ng government officials natin and even around the world. Lahat po, yung mga bankero, ganun ang isip nila. Wala silang pakialam.
Para ma-remind natin ang tao. Tingnan nyo itong mga atin. No? Tuwing papag-usapan nila ang ekonomiya, anong ginagawa na? GDP, GNP, na yun po yung peso exchange rate, inflation, puro statistics ang inyong pag-usapan. Ekonomiya sila. Tanong mo sa kanila yung ilan na ba ngayon, ano ba yung calorie intake? Gaano karami ba ang kinakain ng Pilipino on a per capita basis? Wala silang pakialam doon. Importante po yun, hindi ba? Kasi ang tao, may kakailanganin na calories. Ang calories po nanggagaling sa pagkain no? Yung kakailanganin ng isang tao, ang standard ng World Health Organization yan, ay any human being must be able to take in 2,500 calories a day. That means he must be able to eat that much food to give him 2,500 calories a day so that he can function as a human being. He can think like a human being. He can work like a human being. Yun ang standard. No? Ngayon, ang tanong natin dapat dito sa mga ekonomista, Mr. Economist, gaano kalayo ba tayo dyan? Sigurado wala tayo dyan sa standard But how far are we down? What is the calorie per capita calorie intake of the Filipino? Nobody knows and nobody is computing that. Why? Because they know that the economic program that these economists are pushing results in poverty, results in starvation. So they don't want to go that way. They just want to go according to statistics. What is the GDP? Kanya po ganito ang sitwasyon natin.
Yeah, that's why also we don't have a real economic.
Na,
It's only nagbibilang, tapos sasabihin nila, represent nila yung datos, bilang na bilang, ilan tao dito, ilan yung mayaman, ilan yung mahirap, ilan yung babae, lalaki, ganyan. Yan lang. Tapos, Anong resulta ng population control program natin? Tapos pupunta sila ulit sa USAID, pupunta sila ulit sa WHO. O ito na, but we need more funds. That's our economic program. We don't have a vision because, yun na nga, sabi, economics is an amoral science, sabi nung. Meaning, wala silang pakialam kung ano yung general welfare ng isang tao, isang Pilipino. Wala silang pakialam na mas pagandahin ang buhay. Ang iniisip lang nila is an economic program that will look good on paper. They don't care na what is the difference of putting up a steel factory and a casino.
Wala yun.
Wala sila kanila. Ang ano nila, ano yung datos dito, ano yung datos dito. Pero alam po natin, instinctively, common sense, pag nagpatayo tayo ng isang steel factory, daming trabaho dyan. Okay? Yung generate niyan,
para makita po ng mga tao, pag merong isang foreign investor sa atin, magpapasok siya dito ng $1 billion. No? At itong $1 billion niya, ilalagay niya sa loto. Tatayo din siya ng loto operation. No? Tapos ipapasok niya dito sa casino, lalaro niya din sa casino. Yung pagpasok ng 1 billion niya dito linagay dito sa casino, tsaka naka-record po yan dito sa ating GDP plus $1 billion pumasok. Uy, foreign investment. Yung isa naman, meron din siyang $1 billion. At yung $1 billion niya, ipinasok niya dito sa Philippines. At yung 1 billion, embes na ilagay niya sa loto o sinugal niya sa casino, ang ginawa niya, nag-invest siya sa agro-industrial complex. Ano yun? Nag-invest siya sa, let us say, prawn farming. Gumagawa mga hipon, no? Nagproduce ng maraming hipon. And saka high-tech na hipon. Ganyan. Ngayon, ang pasok ng 1 billion plus $1 billion din sa GDP. Wala pong pinagkaiba yan doon sa GDP, parehong 1 billion. Pero ang tanong, ano ba sa palagay nyo ang mas mahusay sa ating ekonomiya? Siyempre, yung isa, yung pumasok sa agro-industrial. Bakit? Kasi yung 1 billion niya, nag-produce ng food, nagbigay ng investment, at meron pa siyang employment generation. Tapos may technology transfer pa siya. Tuturuan niya ang Pilipinas kung paano mag-produce ng itong ganitong product. Ngayon, that is the... And then, alam nyo, sunod-sunod pa yung mga ibang benefits doon. Dito naman sa isa, nagpasok ka ng 1 billion at linagay mo sa loto, linagay mo... You did not generate labor. Linagay mo lang sa casino. Wala pong nangyari sa technology transfer. No? Walang nangyari. Pero $1 billion ang pumasok. Parehong plus sa GDP yan.
Yan ang kinocompute nila.
That's what they're computing. And it has nothing to do with the quality of life of people.
Yeah.
That is where we differ. We reject that idea that economics is an amoral science. We reject that idea. Economics, an economic program, must focus on the welfare of your people. Ang unang-unang beneficiary ng isang programang pang-ekonomiya ay ang taong bayan. Hindi yung linchak na statistics, hindi yung IMF, no? At hindi yung World Bank, no? Which our stupid economists are doing now.
And to add to your quote, yung quote po ni Franklin Roosevelt, economic laws are made by man and should be made to his benefit.
That's right.
Only, simple.
Mm.
So there's no such thing as economics as a science that's not made by man for his benefit.
Mm.
So it's has nothing, of course it's moral. Then it's moral by the very act of creating those laws to benefit mankind. If it doesn't, di palitan and then put a better economic. Yan yung mga hirit ng mga taong tulad ni, going back to our whole show, yun yung mga Bertrand Russell, Francis Galton, yung eugenics, ang Nazi, at ang ano. Pero, balik pa rin tayo sa history. Meron solusyon ang isa, our good friend, Jonathan Swift. Kasi during the 1600, may Irish potato famine ang tawag. Okay? Ang Britain kasi...
Ito, mga 1690.
Yeah, 1690. So, alam niyo po si Jonathan Swift was a author.
Satirist.
Yes, but he's an author most famous by his way of writing called satire. Parang ano niya. Pero,
What is a satire?
a satire is when you mean the opposite of what you say. Diba?
May konting humor. Pero ang sasabihin mo ganyan, pero ang ibig mo sabihin, yung kabila.
Parang pinapalabas mo na napaka-tanga yung solusyon. Na parang
absurd.
Absurd. So, he's famous for that. Si Jonathan Swift po, he wrote Gulliver's Travels. Maganda rin po yan. Magaling na author yun. Pero he was very political. He was fighting for the rights of the Irish. Kasi po, ang Irish colony, Ireland colony ng Britain. At puro farmer yan. At that time, the concern was, itong si Britain, royal family at that time, yung mga ministro, yung mga ministers and economic managers, sabi nila, masyado kasi maraming tao sa Ireland kaya nagugutom sila. Masyado kasing overpopulated yung Ireland. Anong solusyon natin? Kaya hindi sila kaya namamatay, kaya nagkaka-disease, kasi puro mga pobre dyan eh. Okay? So, maraming debate, maraming ng mga tawag nilang dalubhasa. Ito si Jonathan Swift naman, nag-propose ng solusyon. Ganon. So, kasalanan pa ng tao kung bakit nagugutom siya at namamatay. So, he proposed a modest proposal. And I will let my chairman to tell you about what his modest proposal was.
Sabi niya, ito palang problema, sabi niya, bagsak ang ating ekonomiya.
Sabi niyo.
Sabi niyo, wala tayong export. No? Tapos, sobrang mga kumakain ng pagkain dito sa atin. No? At dahil dumadami ang tao natin. No? Sabi niya, can I make my modest proposal? By the way, please look at this and Google it so that you can read the whole thing
yourself.
I will just tell you the summary of it. Sabi niya, let me make a modest proposal. Tatandaan nyo, satirist ito gusto niya lang gusto niya lang pakita na napakatanga talaga nitong mga nasa gobyerno para sabihin ito ang problema. So sabi niya, kung yan ang problema natin, wala tayong exports, wala tayong negosyo. Tapos sobrang kinakain natin at dumadami ang populasyon natin. Sabi niya, ba't hindi natin gawin ito? Sabi niya, lahat ng mga pinapanganak natin, gawin natin 1/3 of all the babies that are born
in Ireland.
Yeah, in Ireland. At sabi niya pala, ganito muna.
Yung poor.
Lahat ng mga nanganganak ng poor. Alam niyo po, yung mga mahihirap, no? Ang mga bata, napakaganda, napakalusog ng itsura pagkatapos ng isang taon na sumususo sa nanay. No? Kanya hintayin natin pag nakaganyan na at malusog at maganda na yung bata. Kunin natin lahat yung mga batang yan. 1/3 of them, sabi na, patayin natin. No? Tapos, kasi napakaganda nila, ang sarap siguro niya mga yan. At ang mga Irish, ang gagaling mangluto niyan. No? Kayang-kaya ng iba-ibang putahe na galing dyan. Di masosolve natin yung gutom, di ba? Tsaka napakasarap no? Ngayon, dahil napakasarap at makikita ng tao, ng ibang mga bansa na meron tayong ganitong klaseng kinakain, hihingin din nila na magbenta tayo sa kanila. So, etong England, kunin natin yung 1/3 ng ating mga bata. Kunin natin at i-export natin doon yung at makakain din nila yung mga bata. So maayos na yung ating gutom, maayos pa yung ating negosyo, export. Pero yung huling 1/3, wag po natin ibenta yan. Bakit? Kakailanganin natin mag-produce ulit ng mas maraming bata. No? This was his modest proposal. Pero it was a satire. Ang pinapakita niya po doon sa mga nasa gobyerno, kung gaano katanga ang kanilang mga sinasabing problema. No? How stupid they were. So he made an absurd suggestion to make them look so stupid with their proposal.
Again, the full title again, yung a modest proposal for preventing the children of poor people in Ireland from being a burden on their parents or country, and for making them beneficial. In other words, this is a modest proposal to solve the problem of overpopulation and hunger. Because even that time, ang sinasabi nila, kasi masyado maraming taong
ano lang to, 1690s. Tingnan niyo po
ito 1729 yung modest proposal.
Yun, somewhere there, si early part of 1700s or late part of yan si Jonathan Swift. He's also known for Gulliver's Travels. Gulliver's Travels naman is, magsesegue lang ako ng konti. Napakagandang libro niyan. Pero pag binabasa niyo po, kayo pong nakabasa niyan, kala niyo it's a adventure or just a fiction.
It's a
fiction
story.
Like a fiction story. Right? Hindi po no? Yang ginawa to me, it's the best probably sociology book no? That any university should use in teaching sociology. You can go through one whole semester, going maybe even more, one whole semester of Gulliver's Travels. Bakit po? Yung dahil si Gulliver nasira yung kanyang barko, napadpad siya sa mga iba-ibang lugar. Dito sa mga iba-ibang lugar na napuntahan niya, may iba-ibang klaseng mga tao, no? At ang pinapakita niya, yung mga iba-ibang klaseng tao, iba-ibang ugali ng tao talaga. The different human behavior. No? At yung iba-iba ang ugali nila. Meron mga maliliit ang utak, meron naman masyadong ganid, meron naman iba-ibang klase. No? Ngayon, meron mga inggit o ganyan. Tapos, napapunta siya sa isang lugar, yung pinakahuli niyang napuntahan. It was the land of the Winnims. No? Winnims. Pagkita niya doon, kauna-unahan niyang beses nakakita ng talagang pang tao. Pero taong ang ugali, hayop, no? yung parang wild men and women.
Parang barbarians.
Oo, tapos pag meron silang makakain, patayan agad sila para kunin yung pagkain. Hindi lang barbarian, talagang wild. Parang cavemen, no? Ganyan na. Parang hayop talaga, no?
Right.
Pero tao. Di ba, mga kaaso, ganyan, agawan sa pagkain, kinakagat yung isa, ganyan. So nakita niya to, takot na takot siya, no? Tumago siyang ganyan at tumakbo siya baka makita siya, no? Nung patakbo siyang ganyan na ano niya na meron siyang nakitang kabayo, no? At nagsasalita yung kabayo sa kanya, sabi saan ka pumunta? Tinatakbuhan ko kasi meron akong may mga
mahabol sa akin.
Kala ko mga katulad ko no? Pero hindi sila, ibang ugali nila. Tapos sabi niya, alika, sama ka na lang sa akin at para madadala kita, tutulungan. Alam niyo ba si Jonathan Swift, anong tawag niya doon sa wild men? Tingnan niyo po doon sa Gulliver's Travels. Those wild men, those wild parang cavemen, acting like beasts, like wild beasts. You know what they call them? Yahoos. Y-A-H-O. Nakakagulat po na saan ba nanggaling yung Yahoo? Siguro nung nag-invento ng Yahoo, doon niya nakuha. Pero kasi, where will Yahoo come from? But this is one thing. That's what I found a little strange. At I wanted to tell you the story. Anyway, pagdating doon sa mga kabayo, ang mga ugali nila nung nandun sa ang ugali ng kabayo, ang lahat ng pinakamagandang ugali na hinahanap mo sa isang tao na lang nakikita na pinapakita ni Jonathan Swift wala sa tao kundi nasa kabayo. No? And then from there, tinulungan siyang bumalik sa Inglaterra. Pero that is why it was so nice, and if you look at it as a human behavior book and study it, I think you will enjoy it because you will see it in a different light. Yun po, sorry nag-segue ako dito. No?
Yeah, but I wanted to add lang. Maganda po yung, again, yung sinasabi po ni Chairman, that po is in the book. Wala yata yan sa mga movie na Gulliver's Travels.
Wala.
So you have to read the book. Medyo yung book kasi Old English. So pero kumbaga may interpretations or whatever. Siguro sa YouTube mahanap niyo yung Gulliver's
Travels. Meron mga natural.
So sa basahin niyo po, maganda po. Medyo may kakabalan kasi it's really pero maganda po yung lesson ni Jonathan Swift doon. Saka si Jonathan Swift po, alam niyo po, at that time, wala pa yung Amerika. 1720s.
Yeah.
He was actively organizing for the independence of Ireland from Britain. He was a Republican thinker. Ayaw niya yung monarchy, ayaw niya yung... So active siya. Ito yung alam niyang way kung paano lumaban dito sa mga Pero he was very active in trying for the independence of Ireland. Remember, at that time, wala pong independent nation. Puro monarchy. Ang
Hari at Reyna.
So, he was one of those first. So, and then later on, syempre yung mga ideas na yun, alam po natin, yung mga ideas kumakalat sa mundo. At yung mga ideas of freedom and sovereign mind of a human being that man is created in the image and likeness, kakalat yan, lalo na sa mga taong hindi sila elitista, hindi sila, sabi nila, so dapat yung gobyerno. So Jonathan Swift was one active. He was very political. Very political. Hindi po siya author lang para saya-saya lang. May reason kung bakit siya very active there. So a lot of historians. So going back nga, even at that time, sinasabi ng mga elitista, yung mga monarchy, mga elite, overpopulated. Yan ang Kasi masyadong maraming kumakain, patayin na lang natin, bayan natin papatayin yan. Ganon sila mag-isip.
This is 200 or about 300 years ago. Ganyan na po ang kanilang iniisip.
Yeah.
How to cut down and kill human beings.
Yes. And to
so that they will have the rest of their country or the rest of the world for themselves.
Right.
Diba?
And to put that together, going back to the first thing we talked about, COVID and the vaccine. This mindset is ingrained po in one of the richest men in the world, which is Bill Gates. Hindi po conspiracy theory yan. If you look at Bill Gates' investment, yung kanyang Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, he is the number one contributor and investor in almost all pharmaceutical and health sciences companies, including the WHO. Number one po siya sa pagde-develop ng science, developing new vaccines, new chemicals, new bacteriological strains, whatever. Siya po, ang Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is the number one investor in all of these companies in the world right now. And if you listen to what he says, you will know, and you should be afraid of taking any vaccine that this person and these companies produce. Sinasabi niya straight out of the horse's mouth kung anong gusto niyang mangyari sa and then to take mo yung vaccine na bibigyan niya sa'yo. That is obviously, there's something wrong. And going back, and this is the kind of thinking, all of these kids, all of these one world government, all of these guys talking about overpopulation, yan ang gusto nilang mangyari. And he said it many times, na maybe through vaccines, we can lessen the population. Imagine. It's not to save lives. It's to cut lives. It's to reduce lives.
Before we, I just want I want to remind again. Andiyan pa ba yung kay Prince Philip?
Yes. Yes.
I want to remind our viewers and listeners. One of the foremost advocates of population control, and who said that our population of 7.8 billion, there must be something done now so that we can bring down our population back down to 1 billion people. From 7.8 to 1 billion people in one generation. Gusto sabihin, papatay siya ng 6 billion plus people in one generation. At hindi kakayanin ng gera, hindi kakayanin ng kailangan sabay-sabay. Ang pinakamabilis pong pagpapatay tao ay gutom. So you have to shut down economies in order to kill many people. The ones, I will read to you a quote coming from Prince Philip, who says, in the event, sabi niya, itong si Prince Philip, ito yung namamatay ng asawa ni Queen Elizabeth sa England. Sabi niya, in the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation. Yan po ang kinote siya ng Deutsche Press 1988 pa po. Tapos sabi niya po naman dito sa isang I just wonder what it would be like to be reincarnated in an animal whose species had been so reduced in numbers that it was in danger of extinction. What would be its feelings towards the human species, whose population explosion had denied it somewhere to exist. I must confess that I am tempted to ask for reincarnation as a particularly deadly virus. Yan. Sinabi po ni Prince Philip, yan po ang pag-iisip nitong mga gagong ito, na mas mahalaga pa ang hayop kisa sa human beings. At binibintang niya, at sinabi niya, mas gusto niyang maging deadly virus. Itong pandemic, deadly virus, no? Para mabawasan niya ang populasyon ng human beings sa mundo.
Sa ginagamit niya, yan, nasa last thing, no? So before we read. Yeah, can you... ang ginagamit niyang rason, remember, he co-founded, one of the founders of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, World Wildlife Fund, WWF.
WWF.
Yeah, ang ginagamit niya po, nakita po natin yan dati nung nakakapunta tayo sa mga mall, hihingi ng mga donation, di ba? Sa save the ano daw, save the panda, o save the whale, o save the dolphin. Pero, yan ang ginagamit niyang pasok para sabihin na nagiging extinct na yung mga species of animals dahil masyadong maraming tao. So, WWF is not a animal welfare. It is a depopulation.
It's a depopulation.
That's what it is.
And
they're getting funds to fund programs around the world, sabi nila, to save extinct species. But what that means is to reduce the population of people. Yun lang.
Anti-people, anti-development.
Anti-human.
So, yeah. Okay, ang ganyan na lang po tayo. What we try to do here is to be able to connect our policies with regard to this pandemic, and the idea of the population and eugenics.
Okay. So again, the comments do not necessarily reflect that of KDP and ang Ating Katipunan and the hosts. But in the interest of free speech, we will read all of them as best we can. Val Godinez, good evening. Angelo Redaja, good evening, Sir Butch. Valdes, watching from Malolos. Ovencio Laporga, gandang gabi, Sir Valdes. Denea Arcilla, good evening po, Sir Itos and Sir Butch. God bless you. Arok Alip, magandang gabi po. William Laguno, gandang gabi po mga Sir. Tron Gamer, good evening po. Franz Ayalin, good evening, Sir Itos at Sir Butch. Done sharing po. Thank you, Franz. Gloria Siebert, guten Abend, Sir Butch, Sir Itos, watching from Germany. Hindi pa raw na darating ang AstraZeneca bukas. Baka next week pa daw, sabi ni Duque. Okay. Cesar Soberano, good evening po mga Sir Present. Can we say to some extent that capitalism, being a moral economic model program, is more inclined to the depopulation program of the rich elite? Is socialism a more humane alternative to capitalism in advancing human progress in general?
I don't know if you will use both either capitalism or socialism as a basis for the argument, Cesar. No? All you have to do is look at the economic program. No? Then you will see, because the economic program can have different types of flavors. No? Because capitalism, you're talking of liberal capitalism, yung ginagawa, it's evil. No? But socialism, if we go all the way into Marxist collectivism, is evil as well. Because it does not uphold the dignity of the human being. Number one kasi, for any kind of system, is upholding the dignity of the human being. You cannot be evil if you bring up your fellow human beings with you. No? You cannot. So all of these isms, no, sometimes are, how do you say it, limiting.
Yes.
Limiting yourselves into a box.
Right.
Now, you're like this.
Which they design.
They design. So you have to expand it and see what is the objective. Ano ba yung goal natin? No? The goal is not capitalism. The goal is upliftment of the quality of um, life of every human being on this planet.
Yeah.
That is the goal. No? Now, how do you do that?
Yes.
No? That means you bring up the number one value is the human being.
So in our, just to add to that, in our, it's a good question. In our research and all of these years that we've been studying, there is what we call the American system of political economy, which is not capitalism per se, which is not socialism per se. Now, what they did, what these free traders of the British did, was they boxed capitalism in here, and ito yung meaning ng capitalism, ito yung meaning ng communism and socialism. And you're either or. So that's what we were taught in school. That's what my father was taught in school. And we weren't taught the principles of Alexander Hamilton, Henry Carey, and Matthew Carey, and everybody along those lines. I would recommend, Cesar, for further reading, you go online and research Henry Carey. He has a very good paper on against free trade, against calling free trade the economic system of animals. And this is an American that was with Lincoln and building United States. So there's a very good difference between that, which we'll not see in our economic textbook. So that's something else we can. And like you said, always look at ano ba yung definition nila of mankind. What is the nature of man? If they see man as another animal, you will bet that their economic laws and principles will follow that. If not, created in the image and likeness of God, then you look at writers and economic thinkers along the same line. And you will see, maganda pong journey yan, which we've gone through. Carlo EY, what can you say about this article? Again, nagtanong siya on the vaccine. Yuko Takei, dumating na ang Sinovac, hindi na darating muna ang AstraZeneca vaccine. Yung Sinovac libre, walang bayad. I have faith in the vaccines to be produced in Japan as soon as possible. But I am not getting it because I am allergic. Johanna Tullier, good evening po Sir Butch and Ethos, KDP. Thank you, Johanna. Punch. Magi MG Ocasla, thank you po Sir Butch and Ethos and son Ethos Valdes. Greetings from UK, mabuhay po kayo. Thank you sa story Sir Butch. Babasahin ko po. Yan. Maganda yan, tapos we can discuss it. Alfredo Redina, present. Blocked ako ng DWIZ. 110 million population, 500K affected, 400,000 recovered, equals 85%. 10,000 deaths, 2%. Why call pandemic? Why need vaccine? 7 as of 7 p.m. of 7% of 110 million, 70% of 110 million, 77 million to be vaccinated. Damay pati mga healthy na makakaranas ng side effect. Hindi na sila healthy kasi gagamutin ang side effect. Malval, nice. Rosita Pangilinan, alam ba ito ng kinauukulan na kompleto?
Lagay ko, hindi pa po.
Rain, dumating na ang Sinovac vaccine at atat na atat ang mga tao dahil ang alam nila, ligtas na sila. Gonna happen. Joanne Undoy, AFP leadership declared vaccine mandatory. Basic rights regarding medical freedom has been deprived. Right. Shouldn't be mandatory. Armado, how? Mga sir, magandang hapon po dito sa Dubai. Andrew Felizardo, good evening po. Wala nang halaga sa kanilang buhay, pera lang mahalaga sa kanila. Bino. Mga ibang nakaka-survive ng COVID, meron na din silang symptoms such as fatigue, breathing problem, etc. Sa Amerika po, sobrang daming pagkain. Yung iba, tinatapon na lang para tumaas lang presyo ng products nila. Magaling talaga si Donald Duck Trump. Kaya nga, wala siya ginawa nung in-announce ang pandemic ng WHO organization. Pinabayaan niya namatay mga na 500,000 death. Magaling talaga si Donald. Ulit. 500 COVID-19. Worse than World War I and II. He did nothing about it. The most powerful country in the world with the most COVID cases. Yan ba ang good leader? Ang prediction po talaga, ang mundo ay magiging overpopulated, kaya nga naghahanap ang Amerika na bagong planeta like Mars. At pag lahat ng tao naging perfect, mawawala na po ang medical health business. Paano ang tatakbo ang ekonomiya ng mundo? We need evil for the good to thrive. Nope.
I think that's really a stupid conclusion.
Yeah, and it's
Really
really
stupid. I'm sorry, Dina.
yeah, sorry, but lahat ng sinabi mo, nope.
No,
Yun lang.
that's
Next.
why.
Crisel Ziganay, dapat magkaisa ang mamamayang Pilipino. Yes. Angelo Solano, okay ng bakuna dumating na COVID passport at certificate. Isusunod ng mga ulupong at sa walang bakuna, deprived na sa benefits gaya ng nangyari sa Israel. Federico Mana, nakapagtataka marami nagsasabi ng mga doktors na dalubhasa sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo na delikado ang bakuna COVID-19 pero pinipilit ng gobyerno sa atin. Kasabwat lahat. Teresita Salazar, only one life to live yet they are messing with it big time. May God help us. Gatsby Talco, walang sakit, walang kita. Yeah. Arok Alip, di ako naniniwalang hindi alam ni PRRD, President Duterte, ang tungkol sa side effect ng bakuna. At pabago-bago ang statement niya kung magpapabakuna ba siya o hindi. Esther Pilcher, good evening mga Sir Valdes, isa lang po ang dahilan ng vaccine na yan, patayin ang dami ng tao sa mundo. Lalo na sa Pinas. Kasi po, talo sila now sa economy, mga salbahe sila, mga duwag sa katotohanan. Eva Araneta Sevilla, good evening po Sir Butch. Ask ko lang po regarding parliamentary and federalism. Favor po ba kayo?
Alam niyo po hindi mahirap po sabihin ngayon kung ano yung papabaruhan mo because para ka na lang ang sinasabi mo parang magpalit na lang ng damit, no? Pag nagpalit ka ng damit, mag-iiba ba ang takbo ng ng ekonomiya mo o ng sitwasyon? Dapat hanapin muna natin ang ating sakit at ang ating kinakailangan sa ating katawan. Tapos tingnan natin kung alam na natin kung ano ang ating sakit, mahanapan natin ng lutas, di ba po, ng solusyon. Kung alam na natin yung solusyon, saka natin isipin ano ba ang pinakamahusay na sistema para maigawa natin ang ating solusyon. Which is the best form of government
Right.
to be able to do what we want for our people. Di ba po? Hindi yung basta na lang federalism dahil hindi tayo naka-federalize. Hindi yung parliamentary naman dahil nasubukan na natin yung presidential. Parang napakababaw po to make that kind of a decision. What is it that we want as a people? Let us define it. And it can be defined. Pag alam na natin kung ano yon, okay, pag-usapan natin, ano ba ang pinakamahusay na sistema para makamtan yung ating gustong gawin.
Right. Start with the intention. Diba?
Yeah.
Ano yung intention para sa taong bayan? Also, that goes with the same.
And the goals, no? You have to define your goals.
Right. It goes to intention, then you have a goal. But ano yung gusto natin mangyari? Ano yung dapat mangyari? And then you look at the system and the people and the leaders that should be selected to in that system.
Yeah.
Juliesa Likayan, shout out po sa inyo dalawa, Sir Butch, Valdes, God bless. God bless sa inyo po, watching from Germany. Mayet Fuentes, salamat po sa inyo, God bless po. Becky Bautista, because of self-interest, hayaan na ba natin mamatay ang kababayan natin? Think twice, please. Cesar Velasco, good evening, Sir Butch, Sir Itos, watching from Siniloan, Laguna. Siniloan, Laguna. Rod White Pariabas, magandang gabi po Katipunan, mabuhay po kayo Sir Butch at Sir Itos. Meron ng Sinovac, mga amboy, nasaan ang vaccine ng mga puti. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas at ang China. Watching you always from Subic. Noel Yuichi, malinis po ang puso nyo, Katipunera. Salamat po kasi ayaw nyo mamatay ang mga may hirap. Thank you, Noel. Alice Groyon, hirap na pagkain artificial na po pagdating ng panahon. Dito or Retni. Good evening, mabuhay KDP, God bless. Wilfredo Opiniano, good evening po, Sir Itos Butch. Joet Garcia, Revelation, the four horsemen, white imperialism or globalism. Red is war, pale is poverty, and red is war. They come in one after another, expect for world tribulation and persecutions of Christians. Benbuan, USA no longer a republic but a corporation. Pwede pong paki-explain.
Kasi po, sabi nila naging korporasyon yan noon dahil nung naitayo po yung Federal Reserve at after the Civil War, the United States got into a heavy indebtedness from Rothschild, and they had to borrow from Rothschild. Now, after maybe 1 or 2 more decades, they found out na hindi nila kayang bayaran yung utang. No? Ang ginawa nila, humingi sila ng parang restructuring, tapos parang korporasyon po, no? Tapos babayaran nila yung inuutang. Parang doon nagtayo ang Federal Reserve. As you know, the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States, is not owned by the United States. It's owned by banks. No? And the principal group that is financing that is the Rothschilds. And everything that the U.S. needs to run the whole country, no, is borrowed from the Federal Reserve, and then they pay it back as they collect taxes. They pay it back with certain interest. Kanya po is being run like a corporation.
Okay, Henry Pangilinan, napapansin ko po halos lahat ng bayan ngayon ay nag-roll out ng bakuna. Kaya ng polio, rubella para sa tigdas, habang ang naghihintay sa COVID bakuna para daw sa kalusugan ng mamamayan. Lourdes Nakajima, sa Thailand, nag-vaccine na in live TV. Medi Balukas, good evening Sir Butch, Sir Itos, mabuhay po. Totoo pala ang mga kwento ng mga kaibigan kong mga Hapon tungkol sa nangyari Hiroshima at Nagasaki. Ngayon ko lang naintindihan dahil po sa kwento.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you. But marami pong pwedeng i-research pa dyan. So, good luck on your research journey. Tapos usap ulit tayo. RJ Avellana, mabuhay.
Mabuhay, RJ.
Rap in Abs Gunter, watching from Germany. Manaf, mga demonyo yung mga globalist. Mark Angelo Pimentel, walang tulong galing sa simbahan kasi pabor sila. Pati Rothschild, ganyan ang adikain depopulation. Yun na nga, actually, it's sad because the church hasn't been present. Nowhere man, one world government, cashless society headed by Antichrist. Mangyayari kasi nakasulat sa Revelation. Ken Valerio, Sir, pa-vlog ko itong Katipunan natin. Di napapanood ng iba natin mga kasama kong vlogger. Salamat. Yes, please promote. Like, subscribe. Diba? Like and subscribe. Huwag sana tayo pabayaan ng Pangulo. Gawin yan tama at di siya malilimutan ng taong bayan. Ayun na nga yung hinihingi ng KDP at the chairman na matagal na. Right? programs, no? Pero, sige, kunyari yung programs, meron po kaming live streaming every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Talakayang Bayan, kasama po natin si RJ Javellana, at si Toti Casino, at si Chairman Butch Valdes. That's around 8:30.
8:30.
About 8:30. And then we have Sundays, ang Ating Katipunan. Dito po.
7 to 9.
Tapos may mga programa rin before that, before 8:30, yung solo program ni RJ Javellana at ni Toti Casino. So, and you can watch this again, yung mga archive natin ng programa on our Facebook and YouTube page.
Si Rita Gadi comes out on every Tuesday. Si Cathy Cruz also comes out every Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday ba? Okay. Anacela Watson, good. Hello mga sir, keep up the good works. Go po, patuloy niyo ang pag-awake sa Filipino. Nesara Gesara, sir, explain nyo kasi now ang flat Federal Reserve down.
Fiat.
Ang Fiat Federal. Oo nga, yung Federal Reserve, nag parang outage sila recently. Was siguro yung Nesara Gesara, we can explain it next time.
Yeah.
We'll go into that next time. Jackie Lynn, Sir Butch, Sir Itos, lahat ng agenda na binabanggit nyo ng mga elite ng mundo ay nasa vocabulary na daw ni President Donald Trump, vocabulary, at mga military intelligence since Donald Trump assumed office. As per Checkmate or Mate program hosted by Zaldi Lenon, DZRJ, sana ang effort ng military intelligence will continue their loyalty to President Trump and put into power so that those hidden. Okay.
Hindi na tapos.
Jose, you want this?
No.
Jose Aquino, di po ba bumisita dito sa atin si Bill Gates sa Erie? Yes. Sa Laguna na sikretong-sikreto at parang nag-donate sa Erie. Hindi kaya meron tayong genetically modified rice? Yes. And Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation also donate to all of these biosciences nga. Yung producing genetically modified foods and yung mga sciences po, malaking donation yung si Bill Gates. Health sciences and food research. Virtual Beast, Jesus Christ is coming, you like it or not, biblical. Writing on Holy Bible will have to happen. More better to read the book of Holy Bible. Okay? Meron pa ba?
Yeah.
Okay, Nelly Sistara, I read Bill Gates also has bought farmlands and is one of the biggest owner of vast tracts of farmlands in the USA.
That's true.
Yes, we saw that also. Dino Bino ha, patayin daw mga retiree para hindi na magbayad sa government retirement check nila while shutting down businesses, losing billions and billions of each day. Trump followers talaga, ha ha ha. It's not stupid because it's facts. I'm sorry din po sa tinuturo dito. Old history na po yan. It's 2021 and all those and illegal.
Well, that's up to you, Dino.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you're free to choose whatever you watch.
Yeah, okay. But you're still wrong. Angel Femelen. Good evening po, Sir Itos and Sir Butch. More power for Katipon. Watching from Caloocan. Jerry Magbag. Si Pope John Paul II po, a first-rate philosopher, lagi niya po sinasabi yung dignity of man.
That's right.
Tess Nopam. Good evening po, Sir Butch and Sir Itos. Okay. Mike Agner.
Yes,
Uy,
Mike.
si Mike. Nabuhay po kayo. Ikaw rin. Nabuhay ka, Mike. Salamat po sa programa niyo. Wilfredo Opeñano, sa bawat barangay, wala ng checkpoint mga opisyales. Dapat wala na rin ng face shield. Okay lang face mask, pakontra sa polusyon. Dito sa Metro Manila, takaw na Manila sa kita. Oo nga, we're the only ones that have face shields sa buong mundo. Isay Ariel, good evening Sir Butch and Itos, mabuhay po ang KDP. Buhay. Josephine Noel, watching from Indiana. Algo, President Duterte, I'm among many praying that President Duterte acts what would be helpful in the long run for the nation. Correct. Pestamin, the evil one loves modifying plants and animal human species genetically. Modification of DNA, unethical. Are we good? Joel Garcia, Bill Gates, #1 investor in food and pharmaceuticals. Dangerous man. Correct. Okay?
Okay, bago po tayo magtapos, gusto ko lang ipaalala ulit sa inyo. Ang lahat-lahat ng ito para sa ating bansa, importante po na ang gagawin ngayon, urgent, very urgent na gawin po ng ating Pangulo. Sundan niya po yung Article 12, Section 17 and 18 ng ating saligang batas. Mag-declare po siya ng state of emergency hinggil dito po sa ating krisis na inaharap ngayon. At akuin niya yung public utilities para maibaba niya ang halaga ng singil sa kuryente, sa tubig at iba pa. This is very important. This is not just an economic survival program. It is an economic recovery program. We are now facing in a situation called the Great Depression. Our unemployment rate is 70%. In the US, when it hit Great Depression in 1929, its unemployment rate was 50%. So we're even more than the Great Depression. So alalaanin niyo po yan, we are in a deep, deep crisis. And let's not forget this and push our president to do what is right for the people. Sa ngalan po ng ating mga katipon dito sa ating katipunan at sa mga galing na staff ng DZXL Radio mo nationwide, kami po ay pansamantalang nagpapaalam at nagpapasalamat na sinumahan niyo kami ngayon, ang ora de peligro ng ating bayan at ng buong mundo dito po sa ating katipunan. Hanggang sa linggo pong muli, mga katipon, 7 to 9 p.m. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.